Hey guys, I didn't realize. Ooh. How's everyone doing on this beautiful Thursday? I didn't realize I wasn't streaming on Twitter, so here I am. Okay, let me make sure. Oh, I'm live on Pump. Okay, chat. How many of you have actually used this platform? Nobody? Okay, so this is Racks. It's called Racks.win. It's a gamified way of trading. You're able to trade with 100x leverage. It's built on Hyper EVM. It's super fun. And I told you guys I'm in my product review bag. And I just think farming meta is really big right now. So I've kind of taken some time to get out of the trenches to just start using and reviewing products. So I've been farming a lot of things, but I've been farming Racks specifically because I feel like it's super early and people just don't know about it. And all those people that made $1 million or whatever crazy number from the hype airdrop and all these other airdrops that are coming up. Some people are talking about lighter. Obviously, a lot of people are also farming Aster. And I just think this is a product that most people don't know about. So you are early. I'm going to go through a quick review. And after I'm done with memory protocol, I'm going to go through, I'm going to place a trade so you guys can see how it fully works. I just didn't know I wasn't streaming here, but check it out. Racks.win. Okay. So next guest that we're going to have on stream is one of the founders of Memory Protocol. And we're going to talk about how you can monetize your data and also how devs can access your data to build cool apps. We're all complaining about the Twitter algo and how it sucks. It actually sucks. Nikita, I'm sorry. I know you're awesome, but the algo is just not algoing right now. So if you're a dev looking to build apps, make sure that you check out Memory Protocol. They're on base and, have an expert coming in to come here and talk to you about it. Hey, Jack.
How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Doing well. Doing well.
How are things at Memory? Congrats on the launch of Mem.
Thank you. Yeah. Launch a token if you haven't already. That's my advice.
No,
Don't be
I'm
afraid.
sure I've launched a token before. And yeah, I'm not sure I'll ever do it again. So props to you.
Yeah, the team of us, there's 4 of us, and we've launched tokens before, but never like done the protocol level or company level token. And should have done it years ago. That's the summary there. I've always kind of thought that in hindsight, like, oh, we should have always done this a while ago. But actually, now having done one, it's so much more of a natural fit for working in crypto, having a token.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thanks for having me on. Excited to talk more
Yeah,
about it.
of course. Why do you think that is? Why do you think launching a token is so important in crypto? Because a lot of people talk about, um, most products don't need a token.
Mhm.
So why do you think that's significant, especially for a product like
Well,
memory?
I think there's a number of reasons. One, if it's not necessary, like by all means, like you can hang your hat on that and say I don't need one.
Mhm.
But obviously, like the basic things with distribution, marketing something with a token is much more advantageous than not in crypto. And the truth is, like, crypto is still, for the most part, it's like as far as like a consumer base, it's still a niche thing, and most everyone sort of looks for some tangible asset that they can get their hands on, and that drives narrative. What's it like? I think it was Meltem had this like epiphany like a couple of years ago, and I've really kind of clinged to it ever since. But like, price drives narrative, not the other way around.
Mhm.
Uh, and there's like a Lindy effect to like price constantly being stable or constantly going up, and that just creates a lot more trust in something. So on the one hand, saying you're going to do a token is like awful, because you're just
Yeah.
setting yourself up for like
Yeah.
backlash no matter what. Doing the token right off the bat is like, you have the risk of it going down or dropping. But if you're playing long-term games, having a token is ultimately, I think, one of the best vehicles to get people to care about what you're doing. And if you don't need it, you don't need it. But um, it's a great apparatus if you can justify having one. Um, so for memory, it actually is a medium of exchange, so it's quite critical to the protocol. Um, However, just seeing a lot of different things about tokens has definitely created some reluctance to do it. And then we ended up deciding, like, let's just get it over with. So I won't name names, but launching a token later in the game is not something we want to do. We've seen some failures or some
Yeah.
bad releases in that way.
Yeah. Understandable. All good points. And I like that epiphany from Meltem. Price drives narrative. That's so true. And
Not the
I
other way around, yeah.
I fully agree with that. So what is memory and how can users earn using memory, and also how can devs get access to the memory API, and why is it important?
Yeah, I mean, where do I start? Memory kind of was born out of the core belief that, like, we should be able to take our data around with us on the internet.
Mhm.
As people, we could do a lot more with our data if we were to able to aggregate it. And then building with data, aggregate user data from different apps, certainly could create better experiences. So going back in crypto, like, there's been a lot of flavors of this, whether it's self-sovereign identity or like composable data on chain. But none of those really kind of satisfied, like, just like the obvious, like, we just kind of want raw user data to be public in ways that don't need to be on chain. You don't need to like verify them because it's typically the user who's saying the thing and you trust the user. Um, and there's also a bunch of trade-offs that come with that. But also, a lot of stuff that people aren't really like precious about. Like, I wouldn't put certain financial information or health information or like even like browsing history on chain.
Mhm.
But there's a lot of other stuff that I would like to be able to port around with me, whether it's like who follows me, some of my interests, um, some of my like own ChatGPT history, like I would be okay with exposing if it meant people could build better experiences on top of that. Um, so out of the core, like music taste was a big inspiration for what we're doing. Um, Out of all of those things, like there was really bad UX with prior attempts to do stuff like this.
Mhm.
It required people to like sign data, have wallets, kind of a non-starter for most normal applications. It required developers to, in some cases, like run custom RPC networks. In other cases, like put some of those UX hurdles in front of people, as well as give up data that they have without any incentive to do so. So we kind of just wanted to like cut through all of that. We wanted to build something that has zero UX hurdles for users, pretty like low or common DevX requirements for builders to build with, and make it incentive complete. And that's where the token comes in. So that's memory in a nutshell. But taking that further, it's like, okay, well, let's say we want to build apps based on someone's music taste. Where do we start with that? Like, do we need to tell someone who's building a music recommendation app that, like, hey, if you just send everyone to our app to give us their music taste, we can give you their music taste? It's kind of a non-starter. It's like, all right, well, now, like, let's say you have a music recommendation app. We can't sell you anything unless we have close to a significant amount or like a significant amount of overlap of users that you have. If we have 5% of the users data that you already have, that's kind of like you're not going to implement something for that. So we thought, why don't we just start with public data? Why don't we aggregate all the public data that we can find on all the users that are relevant to us and the apps that we want to see build with us, and give them something right out the bat? So we started with crypto users naturally. At the time, like we made the decision to do this on Base, so we started with like EVM compatible wallets, but we've since aggregated other APIs and other services to create like a composition of over 150,000 unique accounts. And you could look up 150,000 wallets. It'll show you Twitter, Farcaster, ENS, Zora account, anything that's associated with them somewhere else publicly, we
Mhm.
probably have it. And then we also have follow graph information. So we could show you like who that person follows on Twitter. And we could return all those Twitter addresses where relevant to a wallet address. So if someone logs into an app and with a wallet and you say, oh, follow these people, rather than say like, follow Jesse Pollock or follow Vitalik, you could actually suggest them to follow the people that they already follow on Twitter that are on the app. So we start there. We've already started paying people with those queries. So because we have over these 150,000 unique wallets, we don't need people to come to our app. We already have a pretty rich data set of people that we can pay when their actual information is queried. And this information is all public. But we also have our Vault app. And that's the second part of this, is that's where users actually can access information about them, collect their mem, and they can also like permission more information or less information, disassociate accounts if they're associated with them somewhere else, and we have that. And then in the future, we were going to move more towards private unstructured data, and that's where this gets really interesting down the road. So you can actually say, I want all of my LLM history in this, but I want it private, and I may want to permission it to some use cases in the future, but I'm going to do that on a case by case basis. Um, or I just want to go use a different LLM, but I want to bring my chat history with me and not be locked into this specific provider. So you can do all sorts of things with the Vault app. Um, and yeah, so we already see a couple different apps building on this. There's a couple different use cases. The primary thing we're trying to introduce right now is just to be the best onboarding tool for builders. So if you have something that's inherently social, you can use the memory API. You can know your users when they show up, know a little bit more about them already off the bat, provide a better UX, better experience for them. And when you query them, they get paid. So it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, that's really cool. And right now, what other data points are you looking to add to memory? I know you guys have X, Farcaster, obviously wallets. I
We have
saw
GitHub accounts where relevant. We do have some associations of Solana wallets. In some cases, it's like a Farcaster provided Solana wallet, so it's not like a primary one. If someone goes to the Vault app, they can link all of these things. But given the sources of where we're getting them, sometimes it's like a secondary account, so it's not very high signal. But things we're really looking at adding. I mean, first off, like we're trying to get apps to use the API. That's our primary goal right now, is to see adoption of the API so that those money flows can start and really grow. Right now, we're paying thousands of people per week. We want to see tens of thousands of people paid per week. It's pretty negligible what they're getting paid, but we want to actually grow that and grow the amount of apps building with memory. And then we want to start to add a kind of case by case basis of different data sets. And this is something that we're going to continuously open up so that we're not the only ones doing this. But for example, we have an app called Factory FM. It's in app stores and it's a music review app. If you're familiar with like Goodreads for books or Letterboxd for movies, it's like that, but for music. You don't go there to listen to music, you go there to talk about it, which is pretty interesting because there's a lot of stuff you could like learn from what someone says about something. So we have this app Factory that's connected to memory, and we like in a day built an LLM based music recommendation app that just looked at all of the different things people said about music when they connected to memory. And then by connecting their Factory to memory, you could log into this app with your Factory account and you could get music recommendations every 7 days. It did like a sentiment analysis on everything you said. So if you like talk shit about music, like it would pick up on that. If you like gave something like 2 out of 5 stars, it'd be like, okay, like, not really in
Yep.
their ballpark. And it was like a cool thing, but like we would not have been able to do that if Factory had not been connected to memory. And that's where we want to go. So Web 2, a lot of closed APIs. You can't really build with Spotify data. You can't get an API key to like just programmatically see someone's listening history, but people can export their data. So people want to upload data to the memory vault. We want to run rewards programs to incentivize them to do so that builders can come along and build with that data. We want to start with stuff and continue along the line of like data that users really care about, but are not as concerned with respect to privacy about. Like if you're someone who has spent tens or hundreds of hours writing book reviews on Goodreads over the past 10 years, like you'd be really upset if you lost all that. And that's
Right.
like that's a non-zero chance that you do lose all that because you don't host that information, you don't own that information. Goodreads does. And if they want to like close it up and change shop, like they could. Um, so it would be nice if like you could export that data and upload it somewhere where if someone else wanted to build something for that, you could actually leverage that. And that's not even possible today. So that's what memory, the vault is aimed to serve. And then with that comes a few more data points. So specific things, largely like cultural based, consumer cultural based, media based, and we want to lean into like more social stuff too. Like I've seen like Eigenlayer did like these Eigen cards yesterday, I think, or like this week. Monad cards, the
Yep.
things that like Kaido is doing with, you know, like how they ranked your followers. You could do all of that today with the memory API. So we want to see some more use cases like that. And then we want to see some more like, I guess, media specific use cases in due time.
Are you able to talk about any of the apps that are currently being built on memory?
Yeah, so I think like one of the most simple, but like, oh, I get it now, examples is something called Followcast on Farcaster. This will be available on the base app too soon, but you can basically, I know we've all had this problem when we use Farcaster. You go to Farcaster, it's like, great, you're recommending all these like big Farcaster accounts to follow. I don't really know any of these people, but okay, sure. What about the people that I already follow on Twitter? And then you just go back to Twitter, you use Farcaster. Like that's everybody's story.
Right.
Whether that was 2 years ago or 2 months ago, like everyone has run into that. So Followcast, basically, because we have access to Twitter follow graph, we will sync and we can match that to wallet addresses. So therefore we can map it to Farcaster. You log into Farcaster and you don't need to link your Twitter account. If it's typically, it would already be linked in Farcaster, and it will just show you like, here's all the people on Farcaster, regardless of whether they have the same username or not, that you follow on Twitter. So you can sync all your follows between the two. And it's kind of cool because you query yourself when you do that. So by using the memory API, like you're getting paid because your data is being accessed for the service. That's like, that's just a perfect example of how like that onboarding flow could work for syncing follows. Factory, the music app, is one of the cooler ones. That's like our company's music app that we built in a prior time. But the different things we could build on top of that is really exciting. It was also featured in Apple's App Store last week. And like, it was like every single country over a few days, except for USA and the UK, which is kind of unfortunate, but we had friends in other countries like showing us and what it looked like in the App Store was cool, because like we didn't ask for that. Apple's like, we want to feature your app. It's like a hidden gem. So there's a ton of activity happening there, and we want to see people build with that data. And then there's some other stuff, other conversations we're having with other apps about being a little bit more native within their app, so that it's much more in the background. It's kind of like a native feature. So, and again, it's more in the onboarding flow kind of things with the data that we have today with Follow Graph. But that's all I'll say. I will say, if someone wants to build with it, we're an open door, and I mean, everything's publicly available. You can go and build with it today, but we are also giving out mem allocations to people that want to use the API, as it requires mem as credits for the API.
That's pretty cool. So how does a dev get in contact with you?
I tell people Twitter DMs, but those have gotten a little busy. I mean, we have like, I would still say Twitter DMs. My
Yeah.
Telegram's been nuked. That comes with launching a token, but Twitter DMs of me or someone on the team is the best way to do it, and I will typically pick it up. If not right away, I will see it. Otherwise, like, the memory Twitter account too is like, we're very active there, just tweeting at it. We'll likely get seen. Docs.memoryproto.co is where everything can be found. And if there's any questions, we will typically get to you right away.
Cool. And you guys are primarily on Base right now, right?
Yeah, so it's on Base, the token itself, but like we've set up the API so that you could use Stripe with the API, and there's just a router in the background that'll convert like an actual USD to USDC to mem payment, and then that will flow to users. So users get paid on Base, but if you're a builder, you could build anywhere. It doesn't really matter. It's a very traditional API as of right now.
Super cool. Super cool. Are there any apps that you're hoping someone builds on this platform, or do you want to?
I think like the social cards. I mean, like, how far down the curve do you want to go? Like, there's a ton of stuff that like we imagined could be built. First of all, there's a balance of like, we want to build some things, but we also don't want to dominate this ecosystem. We have built some apps that leverage this, but we want to see other major apps use this. And another thing is like, so, that's that like protocol client kind of dogma that exists, but we very much want to be like just a very thin protocol, not a fat protocol, like a very thin, just way for actually portable user data. As far as apps we'd like to see, I'll start with like what's available today. And I mentioned the cards, like play into archetypes of people. One thing that I've always loved, and we actually have available, and I haven't had time to like build this myself, but if I would do anything, this is what I would do, is build something with like the signal of how many people uh, someone follows, like how many people that you follow someone else. So like build like a directory where I can go look up people and I can see like a kind of like a spectrum of like who the most connected people are that like I actually don't even know yet. Um, and versus like people that I are relatively obscure. So like speaking of DMs, like if someone DMs me and no one I follow or no one that follows me follows them, like
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a bot or a scam or whatever. Um, but if 100 and something people follow that person, like huge signal. I'll typically reply right away. I might even follow them right then and there. Um, and that's information that like Twitter's had pretty locked up and guarded. You need an enterprise API to access that from Twitter. Kaido kind of they have something like that, but they've gone in a different direction with it. Um, there's a lot of like really useful stuff you could do with that. You could build like fun social cards for sharing that like show you how credible you are in crypto Twitter or crypto. Um, there's also the more like resourceful and pragmatic like directory type of thing that you could have. And then you start overlapping that with like on-chain activity, which is also information that's available. And like, how legit is this person? How active is this person? Like, here's someone that but like, I don't know, they haven't been around for a while. Like, there's a whole bunch of different signals you could pull from that. I would love to build something myself right there. Um, Further down the curve, like, okay, let's assume that people are bringing a bunch of data, they permission it, there's privacy preservation with everything on memory. I mean, the future of apps and where we're going, and like evidenced by Sora's release and everything that we're seeing with LLM based apps. Um, every single app in the future will have some features, if not their thing, will be LLM based, and they need your personal information to provide better experiences. Like I went into Sora and I recorded I don't know, what is it, like 20-second, like you say 3 numbers and move your face around, and it just trains on that. Imagine if Sora trained on a bunch more stuff and produced stuff for me that I didn't have to prompt. It's like, thought you might like this. And it's like, oh, this is really sick. Like, I'm going to share this. Like, you could start to do some of this stuff. Now, the compute required to do that might be very expensive for like an open AI to just like, proactively create videos for you. But ignoring that, like, that is the future we're going in, where your personal data is going to drive the experiences that are available to you. And that's the whole thesis of memory. That's the whole thesis we've had for years. And whether it's like I load up an app with $300 and say, make a plan for me this weekend. And it knows, what I like to do. It knows things I've done recently. So maybe do something different. It knows what the weather's going to be. It knows like how far I'm going to go. It knows my other plans, things like that. It's plugged into everything. And it can actually like go and autonomously do that. And then come back to me and say, like, this is what I recommend. You want to do this? This is option B and this is option C. Which one do you want? And like I mindlessly just have a plan made up for me, and it makes reservations. It does all of this. That's all taken care of. Everything is much more automated. The missing link today is that we don't have our own personal information aggregated in a way that is accessible and structured for apps to build in that way. So that's more the future of where we're going. I think feeds, social feeds, are going to be much more, much more interesting as a result into like what different information we get served and when we get served it, how we get served it. Um, but all of that is lies on that crux of access to personal information. And every existing company today is taking an approach of like, we need to build that ourselves, and that'll be our kind of leverage. When I would like to bet that that'll be more of a horizontal thing, not a vertical thing. Like if you see what OpenAI is doing, Google's doing, even Meta, they're all trying to be this sort of like invisible identity in the background, where imagine if you had access to all of them and some independent builder could build on top of it. I think that's a much better future where we could see a lot more like dynamic and interesting experiences made available to us.
Right. That's super cool. For me, I think there's two apps that I'd like to see built on
Yeah,
memory.
I'm begging to ask you questions. Let's go.
Um, One is I feel like a lot of people are trying to discover who they are. So an app,
This is
and I
interesting.
know a lot of people use ChatGPT, and then there's like this crossover with like astrology and like self-help and you know basically who you are as a person based off like your past, how you were raised, experiences. If someone can sort of build a self-help app that aggregates all your data based on who you are, I think that'd be pretty cool. And then another app idea is kind of like someone consolidating ways to make money in crypto because I follow so many different accounts on what's dropping next, like how do I farm this airdrop, etc. And I kid you not, I probably have like maybe 20 notifications for different people on Twitter, and it's really easy to miss these things. So someone building an app that sort of consolidates all of that and notifies me on how to farm and earn
You don't
like
just like have like a long set on Hyperliquid that's like low enough leverage where you're comfortable with the liquidation point. That seems to be the play of this cycle that everyone's doing.
oh really? I want to get it, like for instance, plasma. Like
Hmm.
I've been I've been on Echo for I don't know how long now, but I still missed it. And I'm in Kobe's group. So just something that's just constantly reminding me like, hey, this
Or
is
something that maybe like you could load up with some money and it kind of made those decisions for you. And rather than notify you, it notified you to be like, hey, this is a good one. This is why I think so. Kind of
yeah,
like a kind of like a summary of the investment it wants to make, and you could just say yes or no.
yeah. That'd actually be pretty cool.
Um, so let's start with the self-help thing. This is interesting because I think we all started using LLMs like prolifically, and it was late last year. I was like, I don't know, I was talking to Claude on my phone in bed, and I was like, I don't know how I was actually talking about music and like the history of music, and then I think through like acknowledging my different tastes and genres and where about in my life those came about, I was talking about like when I moved when I was 11 and like the different socioeconomic like factors and the different places I lived and like what that meant for me. And like Claude goes full therapy mode. And it's like, wow, that must have been a lot at age 11 to go from here to there. And it's like, no therapist in the world knew the nuances of the socioeconomics of like these two towns in these two different states, like the way like an LLM did.
Mhm.
It's like it automatically knows all this information and is able to respond in real time. Like, oh, that's quite different. Like, I can see the rating of the schools here versus the rating of the schools there, and it was like it spoke to me in a way that was like, yeah, you're right. Like, it was kind of weird, but then it led down this rabbit hole of being like, and then I did this, and then I did that, and here's some more like information about how I dealt with that, and like it just unpacked all this stuff for me in a way that I was like, wow, therapy is like effectively dead, like as we know it. Like
Yeah.
I mean, there's this very like um agreeable nature to LLMs as they are today. And I definitely like picked up on that for the most part. But this thread turned into like effectively a memoir, is what it became up until this point in my life. And I thought that was like a really, really interesting use case where it contextualized my life in a way that it would have taken me a year at least of like dedicated research and work to pull up the data and pull up the perspective and like recite all of this stuff and then like put it back in a way that this happened. Um, And it's, I'm not afraid to admit, like, it definitely gave me some perspective about myself, um, in ways that I certainly wasn't anticipating when I started talking about music, but I never expected would come from like an LLM. So that's just anecdotal, but um, obviously, like pulling an app in with that information and that's like dedicated to that with more information that doesn't require like the staying up until, I don't know, it was like 3 a.m. talking to Claude. I was like, it was like a 5 hour, just like, I was like back in like the text message era, just like going back and forth with this thing. Um, it wouldn't require that, but could be more like immediate, and you kind of just plug in different accounts and things, and it could see all this. And then you could also add context too. That's interesting. I think, have you done anything like that, like with just maybe like chat LLMs? Have you gone
Yeah.
down that road?
I've gone down that road a little bit on OpenAI, ChatGPT, but I didn't really like the things it was saying to me.
Mm,
Um, but I also have a therapist, so I talk to my therapist once a week. And also, as you were talking about your experience with Claude, my therapist has like a note taker on the background. I'm wondering if
mhm.
that's like some kind of data that I can get from her and just like, I don't know, plug it into like an app like this or Claude or whatever to
Do you
also
have do you know what granola is? Granola AI?
know.
This might be illegal. I don't know. Like, I don't know what jurisdiction you're in or whatever, but like, record your sessions with granola and it'll
Okay.
do like a full transcript and then it'll give you like a summary. I assume they have a mobile app. I have it on my desktop, and um, like granola is great. It's a great tool. It pops up because if you sync your calendar with it, it'll just record everything. And I'm pretty like, if you ever join a call and it's like Fireflies wants to join or something, and like the person has to consent to that. Granola does not do that. Granola like just sits on your computer and records everything. Um, it's a little invasive, the way I'm describing it, but it's also very common. A lot of people use it, and I'm not recommending it. And this isn't like a plug for granola because there's also been some like, oh, all of this information is exposed, kind of like leaks. So if you're sensitive to that, like by no means do it. But if you assume everything is already going to be out there in the open, um,
I was just
use
gonna ask that.
granola, record your sessions,
Is
and
this
then
data
like,
encrypted?
this is not actually being recorded.
No, not this. I meant like, is that encrypted? Like that's super scary if my data just leaks.
Yeah, I can't speak for granola. So for us, we did something, and I'll talk about memory again. But we did something where you could upload your ChatGPT history,
Yep.
and we did it because we didn't want people to be locked into ChatGPT. Like Claude came out with like a new model, I forget what it was, over the summer, and we were like, "Oh, this is amazing!" And I was like, "I built so much history with OpenAI. I switched off of Claude like 4 months ago," and I go back and forth between the two, but they have different memories for me on each one, and there's some stickiness to that. So I'm not like as like excited just to jump over to one because maybe it's a better model. And I'm like, okay, this is going to continue to happen. Like Gemini is going to come out. I remember like DeepSeek for a minute there was like, oh shit, it's all over for everyone, this is the best model. Anyway, new models are going to come out. They're going to come out with new providers. This is why I don't think it's going to be vertical based. Memory is not going to be vertical based. It should be horizontal amongst all of these different things. But we built something that it was like really, really clunky because we didn't want to host the information. You hosted the information on your own desktop. You needed Claude desktop because we wanted to encrypt it. But we built an MCP tool so that you could upload your ChatGPT history. We would encrypt it, and then over our MCP tool, and you having Claude desktop on your computer, you could bring all of your ChatGPT history into Claude with the Memory Vault app using our MCP tooling, and that was encrypted. But like the things that we had to do to guarantee that privacy preservation, one, like, we're not straightforward on our side how we structured the data. and how like the transformation process of that data is not, it's not as good as like had you naturally used it in the context that ChatGPT would use it. Like it's an MCP kind of query for Claude. So like Claude is, you know, running on its own context, and then to have this other unstructured data via semantic search was not that straightforward for Claude. But it was just really bad UX. Like you had to have Claude desktop, you had to like plug in some API keys. Like no one's going to do that. So privacy and encryption need to catch up quite a bit is my kind of like long story there. And we're not there yet. So once those things become smoother, we can start to do more things that are more interesting with stuff that people are a little more concerned about the privacy of. With granola, just anecdotally, I do remember someone like tweeting, and I don't know the validity of this, that like, oh, it was all leaked. It's like, okay, great. And they're like a very traditional company, so and they're a startup, but I mean, I could just Google this, like granola data leak.
I think I also saw something on Twitter. If you share, like if you're having a conversation with ChatGPT and you share the link, it's public.
That thread, yeah.
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 So how does that work with memory? Does that data become public?
So like everything on memory today, on the API today, is inherently public. The way that we did the memory thing, it's not available on the API. You can't even make it available on the API. Like we didn't even permission that or anything. Because we kind of did it more as like a proof of concept. And we made the decision ultimately that like, you know, exporting data, downloading a desktop client app for another provider is like the narrative was there, like the storyline of like, you can bring your ChatGPT history over to Claude was like all we really wanted to show. But to improve upon that in the face of like everything we needed to do to be ready for the mem launch and making this like, you know, public API ready for Go, kind of got in the way of each other. So we didn't pursue that. But the decision ultimately came down to like, whether it's because they recognize there will be an ecosystem potential there, an economic incentive to do so, or there's regulation that requires them to do so. OpenAI is likely going to make an API where you can query against someone and they just need to like OAuth. Like I want to connect my OpenAI account and now this app can read that information. Like that's the future we're betting on seeing. Again, whether it's because they think there's money to be made there or because regulation requires that portability. So building for that kind of like inner rim where that doesn't exist just felt like a waste of resources.
Makes sense.
So public data right now, private data in the future. I think some of the stuff you gave me is like a little bit private in nature. I guess like what excites you about crypto? Because for us, it's always like, you get down to the bottom of everything. Like obviously there's like money and all this, right? Great. But like there's some real cool primitives you could do with this technology. Separate of the money and the financialization of things.
Right.
What's exciting to you about, I guess, like decentralized or permissionless infrastructure, or maybe not even like those have become like almost taboos and kind of half truths, but like shared infrastructure, I guess.
Right. I definitely think, you know, as like someone who's heavily involved in social and like social media, definitely being able to take my data with me when I move around. If my Twitter shut down today, I feel like, I don't know, my life would end.
That is so dramatic.
Yeah, it's very dramatic, but I don't know. I don't know what I'd do if like I just woke up and like I was banned from Twitter.
How
So
many followers do you have on Twitter?
I have 23K, 24K.
Not to put you on the spot, like I'm not. Let me look. Yeah, because like, but my point is like that's not an insignificant amount of people.
That's a good amount,
That's
and
kind of
it
like
took
your
me
livelihood in a way.
it took me years to build that.
It's a
So
lot more than I have. So yeah, 23,000. Um, so if you like lost all those people, that'd be like, imagine if you had to
devastating.
start over. Imagine if you're like, yeah, your Twitter got deleted. You're still here. Twitter's still available to you. You have to start over. Like, I mean, you'd probably have people like, oh, follow Linda's new account, and you'd like rack up a lot really quickly there. But um, that is one of the things that we were like, fuck this. Like, we have technology that'll change this. Someone's going to do this. Why not us?
Right.
So I don't know if you know this, but one of the co-founders is a Grammy-winning artist, Andre. He goes by RAC. We met because we did a collaboration releasing his album in 2017 using Ethereum. And like, first album ever on Ethereum, it was like really cool at the time. Ethereum, it wasn't $10. It was like maybe like 100 at that time, because like
Oh,
ICOs
wow.
were cooking the price. But yeah, it was maybe it was, I don't know. It was not what was the price? I could actually look,
Wow.
but
You guys
um,
were early.
yeah, we've been here a long time. But we met doing that, and one thing that we did, NFTs did not exist, stable coins did not exist. So like, we convinced his label to take their share of the sales, but like, we're like, you might have to cash out right away because the price changes really fast. Like, if you care about the sales, we sold 134 albums. Like, it wasn't that big of a deal. They were like losing money if they didn't sell right away. I'll put it that way. But we did something with NFTs didn't exist. We did something with a token, where everyone that purchased it, we also sent a token to. It was an ERC20 token, which like in hindsight doesn't make sense. What is someone like send fractions of it to other people? Like, this is why NFTs started to make more sense. But what we really wanted to do was have a proof of patronage. And the team wrote about this. There's a lot of like literature about this. But effectively, like, it was cool that someone bought the album using ETH. It was way cooler that on chain now there was like a receipt that you supported this artist. And like, the whole NFT thing happened years later. So like, obviously we've heard this narrative, but for
Mhm.
us, that was like this like aha, because he was one of the most followed people on SoundCloud. And Spotify had like really taken over at this point. This was 2017. And only kind of like recently we were like, I was still primarily using SoundCloud, but like, the numbers were just going down for artists and like their activity on SoundCloud. And people didn't really make money from SoundCloud, to be clear. Like, artists didn't make money, but it was distribution. If you had a lot of followers and a lot of listens on SoundCloud, like, you could very easily get bookings, and bookings were where you got all your money. That all started to change, in a sense, like really, really changed. But in 2017, that was changing fast. And for RAC, who had millions of followers on SoundCloud, and that was like, I mean, has millions of listeners per month still to stay on Spotify, but it was not translating. It was like everyone that was going and signing up for Spotify wasn't like syncing all their follows to SoundCloud. I remember the
Yeah.
first time I went on Spotify, and I was like really late. Um, I went through all the artists that I liked and followed on SoundCloud, and I like searched them on Spotify. And I think I was like over it after like 20 artists. I'm like, I'm not gonna do all this shit. Um, I didn't. I like didn't do that. And like, sometimes I'll hear a song, I'm like, oh, I remember this song. Like, this is from the SoundCloud era. But had I like found it on Spotify, I probably would have listened to it like 50 more times since then, and I didn't. So anyway, this is that aggregate data, that portable data kind of like thesis, um, where it was the inspiration for ultimately what like led down the road to where we are today, and how we came to memory, and why we tried doing this.
Yeah.
Um, so social is cool, but like, are you ever like, oh, I wish we could build something with this? Like, there's like cool experiences that like don't exist. Like, why doesn't someone build this?
Yeah, I think
Like the bubbles, like on Twitter, where it's like your proximity of friends. Do you know what I'm talking about? It's like circles and like all the
Yeah,
avatars of like people that you maybe talk to the most or something.
I've seen those, but I haven't seen it on Twitter.
Yeah, like why aren't there more of those?
I don't know. Those it doesn't really excite me that much. I
It's like
see. I
one
see.
dimensional with no context. It's like,
Yeah,
I'm next to
I
that
see.
person. Like, okay,
Yeah,
why?
I mean, Kaido has done something like that with, they put you in like some type of percentage, and the people that are, I guess, important on Kaido that follow you.
How did you do with Kaido?
I did. I was doing pretty well in the beginning, and then I felt like I was being attacked by farmers. Not attacked, but um
Overtaken.
yeah, overtaken by farmers and people. See, that's what I like about crypto is like people there's like I don't want to say equal opportunity, but there's opportunity. Like you were just talking about Spotify and SoundCloud and how you were early and you didn't get rewarded for that. So I think that's
No.
one thing that also really excites me about crypto. Like if you're an early user or an early supporter, um, you get rewarded, and
What
that's
do you think
beneficial.
about what do you think about music NFTs and like the idea of that? So the first thing that got me into crypto was like I was finding artists on SoundCloud, I was managing artists. Some of them blew up. One of them blew up really big. He's very well known to this day. I saw $0 from my work with that artist. It kind of gave me it was a big stepping stone in the career that I built, but um, it was very similar to what you just said. So what do you think about like music and crypto? I'm curious to going off topic here, but what do you think about that?
Um, I think I think it's a great idea, and I think a lot of artists are also. I mean, I saw Lizzo like come out. I don't know, maybe a month ago, talking about how artists aren't really making money off streams. I think there's a big use case there. I just don't know why it hasn't really taken off.
Yeah,
And I don't know if that's because like Spotify has like deals with like the record
it's not
labels or
Spotify. It's more the labels and like it's licensing. The way that like copyright applies to music on the internet and the power or leverage that that gives the people who own the actual like music recording. It's typically not the artist, right? Like they get paid to give their recordings to labels. Labels can distribute them. Label can distribute how they want, and it's just incompatible with NFTs. Not to mention music NFTs from the past cycle, like gave it a really not a bad name, but like I just have this video like people are shoving music NFTs down the music industry's throats when no one asked for that. Um, I yeah, so I, I guess I don't know enough about how long you've been like in crypto or how much like of the NFT cycle you caught, but music NFTs were certainly like the butt end of the NFT joke.
yeah. I've been in crypto for 4 years now, maybe a little.
So you caught it, yeah,
Yeah, so I caught it, but it's just I think Snoop Dogg was talking about it.
yeah.
Um, but I'm not sure. Yeah, it never really took off. Um,
Well, there's still some
do you-
attempts today. Like what Cooper's doing is very much like find someone early and get rewarded for it. That's kind of why I was asking is like that. I still think, it's the thing that inspired me originally. Um, but apply that to everything, like it works really well with like inherently financialized things.
and
Um,
how do you solve like the distribution problem? Okay, so you find
distrib-
someone.
of music or
Yeah, because I know a lot of the labels pay for this for someone
Yeah,
who's
if you're working with Warner Music, like they're
yeah,
gonna make sure you're on every major playlist on Friday on Spotify. Like you're not gonna struggle to get in front of people.
right.
And they're also gonna make sure that it's like going to be received well. So like people are gonna like it. Um, how do you solve for distribution if you're not that? So I don't know, like obviously there's a million different things you could do that artists are doing today, but with money, I think it's really interesting. So this is where I kind of went um, down like a sort of like theoretical lane anyway, was crypto as curation. Um, People were selling music NFTs and it was like, what is this? Is it the copyright? Is it just a copy of the song like a CD? Is it like supporting the artist? Like, what the fuck is the NFT for? Like, I get that maybe it unlocks some shit, but what the fuck does it do? Like, do I own the song? Do I own the like what is it? Because like depending on what platform sold it, they all had their own kind of like offering of what the NFT represented. And a lot of times like, it was nothing of what they said. And without like lamenting too much on all that, what we didn't see was like curation um, and discovery. So something that was really cool about the whole like SoundCloud era and music just like being openly playable and free was Hype Machine. Um, Hype Machine was like it aggregated all the blogs that posted predominantly SoundCloud links in the beginning. Um, so like music blogs were like a thing from like 2007 to like really I would like cut it off at like it went farther than this, but like 2013, like 2009 to 2013 was like this prime era of you found your music on music blogs. This is like when EDM blew up, and it's like it's the reason why EDM blew up in America. I mean, it was a contributing factor, I should say. It was definitely an accelerant, but there was these massive music blogs that people would go, and it was just like a WordPress feed that people would go and find these songs on, and they'd listen to it. And Hype Machine aggregated like X amount of these blogs, and it would show you what was being posted the most. But people would then go to Hype Machine, and they would heart songs, and then there'd be charts on Hype Machine of like the blogs were the big filter, and then taking those songs, you gave the power to the people to curate through just hearting stuff. So in a little like post 2017, trying to find an idea for like music and crypto, I worked on something called charts, which was like really tapping into that psychology of what if you could like something, but it actually like was a token, and then you could earn from that. So basically the proposition was you don't need the artist permission. The artist isn't getting paid from this. They're getting, recognized if they are, if someone likes them. But basically, I get 100 credits, aka likes, 100 tokens, and I deposit them where I want on this feed of songs in a given time frame. And other people do the same thing, and assume there's like scale here, and there's a bunch of people doing this. So if I'm among the early half, or say even the first person is someone who posts a link. It costs a credit to post a link, but that's effectively a like.
Mhm.
It could be a Spotify link, SoundCloud link, YouTube link, whatever. And then other people say, hey, this is actually pretty good. I'm going to agree with this. I'm going to give it credits. So then the amount of likes equals credits, but it's put into a pool of tokens. And anyone can take out their share of tokens at any time. Their share plus based on a curve of like when you got in. Uh, so like I could even like draw this out. This might be the easiest way to do this. You should get like a collaborative like whiteboard in here. But
I'll have that for next.
basically, I also have like there's a GitHub repo with this, but let's say just for the sake of math, there's 100 likes in this pool. First vote, last vote. So this might be reversed too, but Like it is. If you look at this, so like this was the first vote. This is the triangle is the pool of tokens. So if I'm the last vote and I just put in my credit, I can't get credits out. But if I'm the first vote, I can get like, let's say 17 tokens out. And then the second person gets like, 10, and then it just decays down. So basically it rewards being early to liking something. And the curve, to be fair, would look more like a standard curve, like not like a linear curve. It'd be a little more, have a little bit more parabola to it. But it effectively rewards people, as well as like it, sometimes something charts for like 1 week and it only gets to like number 3. Other times something will go to number 1 and stay there for 6 weeks. So like if something's already number 1, it's not like, oh, don't touch it. Like, who knows? Let's keep it there. This is really, really good. I think it's going to stay there. Like there's still an incentive that you need to judge as a curator, like whether or not something is like, this is going to be good. This is going to continue to like be well received. So that can apply for anything, by the way. Like you could have like, I shouldn't have said that, but like I was going to say something like, you could have people doing this for products on Amazon in like the same category. Like this is the best freaking kitchen mixer. Like this is the best blender. Like you could do whatever you want and you could have these markets for this. And you basically have these like distribution curves for payouts. And like, you could also, if I'm the first voter, do I wait or do I cash out early? Like, because once I get out, then the second person is kind of, there. Or do you design it so that it accrues and you're always going to be eligible to kind of pull out if you're the first? And how do you have Sybil resistance? You make it expensive because what's stopping a bot from just posting every single link first? Therefore, no one gets in. You need to make it kind of prohibitive from that point of view. And that's why we were like, well, this should be a reputational thing. We could just do it with like ERC20s and make it a reputational thing. But then you can't solve for Sybil resistance. So you can have some sort of like proof of human, which memory could do. And then you can have these markets built, which is like really cool. But you don't need supply. You don't need to like convince artists to come and upload a song. You could just do it off of links. You could say this Spotify link I think is going to be, a really popular song based on this chart here. So it kind of serves as like a prediction market for music, but it could be applied to anything. And it was somewhat inspired by bonding curves themselves early on before AMMs existed.
How does memory have proof of a human right now?
We don't have proof of human, but we have a like high, like a very high likelihood that someone is in fact human. So you can discern this however you want based off of information on the API. But if someone has a Farcaster account, a Twitter account, X amount of followers, is followed by certain people, is active on chain, and posts, and looks like a human, you could pretty close to deterministically say it's likely a human. If someone does not have sort of missing criteria that you want to define based on different API endpoints, then they're probably not a human. We had a lot of farmers because we did some rewards. And we had like weird criteria where like you had to have a Farcaster account before April of this year, which is well before we announced our token. You had to have a Twitter account that was at least 2 years old, which like, people are going to fall through the cracks there. But for the most part, that's a thing. You had to have like over 50 followers, just like kind of table stakes. If you don't have 50 followers, like you might be a human, but like you're probably farming our token.
Right.
And then there was like other multipliers even within that too. And you had to connect all of these things well before we announced that this was a thing. So we kind of have we had our own little points era. Although they mapped 1-to-1 to the token, we didn't call them points. We just said, you're eligible to claim this much mem when it comes out. And that was available right away. But we had over 70,000 wallets connect. 1,600 actually matched the criteria that we thought were humans.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
We,
no, I know people who have like farming agencies. It's crazy.
yeah,
So
literally.
I definitely believe that. Have you heard of Human app? I don't even remember if it's a blockchain. I don't know if they're still working on it, but I think that's when I was like in my big farming era. And
Are you
I
not still in your farming era?
I'm still in my farming era, but I feel like that was like uh, during an extreme an extreme time in my life where I was just like farming everything. And I don't even know why I did this, but you had to like do the whole facial recognition and then you had to like submit your passport. I think it's a blockchain like based on like if you're a human or not. And I think the most bizarre thing about it is it doesn't tell you this, but it uses your when you're doing like the facial recognition thing as like your PFP. So I have so everyone has like these really terrible
There
random
he
pictures
is.
as
Yeah.
as your PFP. It's like
My,
we didn't know that's what it was gonna be. Literally, that's what's
yeah.
on there. It's so
I'm
funny.
like laying in bed, turning on my brightness. Like, why is my Face ID working? Like,
And
um,
they made you submit a picture. They didn't use that one. They used that
that's
also.
funny. I don't know. I think the dominant one in this space right now of like biometric proof of human is WorldCoin.
Yeah,
Um, and
definitely.
I saw a tweet yesterday because of the reaction to Sora. It's like simultaneously like front running the need for, or simultaneously like front running deepfakes while providing the solution with like actual biometric proof of human. It's like, huh, okay.
Yeah,
Um,
that's funny.
yeah, so it's definitely like we're moving towards a world where biometric proof is going to be critical, but I think the race is still, will it be a company? Will it be a nation state? Will it be a combination of those two things? Or will
Mhm.
it be protocolized? And I think my answer, whether this is pessimistic or not, is it's going to depend on the use case. We're going to have biometric identities for companies. We're going to have biometric identities for nation states, and we're going to have much more permissionless or open biometric identities for other contexts. I wish. Um, oh, Bitcoin's back above 120. That's good.
Wow.
Let's let it punch through this zone, and then we're off. Then it's
On.
then it's October. Um, kind of already feels like October, but
Yeah.
I'm worried we're going to have a nice little 5% retrace unless we smash through 120 and 124. Um, sorry, I shouldn't be talking about
No,
markets. I'm looking at the screen right here.
no, I had to take a little break and look too. I feel like
Um,
we're all trading perps right now, so
it's the cycle of the perps.
yeah, it's the cycle of the perps. I gave up on memes. I'm just
Um,
I can't. But honestly,
yeah,
I've made really good friends trading memes, like really really good friends.
it's really fun. I will
It's
say, like it's really like there. I am not in crypto for financial reasons. Um, and I would like stand out with a pitchfork, like, what are you guys doing? This is so dumb. You're hurting people. And then when you actually like get in the trenches and you start doing it, it's like, I'm having a fun time.
it's really fun.
Like
It's super fun.
it, it's really ridiculous. And like, you know what? Like I'm not justifying it. But it's like, it's like getting really messed up at a party, and like it's not the best behavior, but like you wake
Yeah,
up the next day and you're just like laughing with your friends, like
yeah.
like you don't really have those moments. But all that said, it is definitely the cycle of the perps, which I don't know if it's because of hyperliquids or not, but like perp trading has been around for a long time in crypto. It's just more accessible, much more leverage accessible. Dexes, perp dexes are much more accessible, but yeah, I'm like watching the price of ETH just break through right now.
Crazy.
It's not crazy yet. Where do you think we go this cycle?
Up, I hope.
When do you think the cycle top will be?
When do I think the cycle top will be?
You got to have some like people on your show that you ask this question.
Yeah, of course. I don't know. I don't
You
I
don't
literally
know.
don't know. I'm such a bull. I don't know when it's gonna top.
Just like vibes, you'd be like, we're there. I
Just
guess this is
just
the
vibes,
top.
just vibes right now, yeah.
I bought a home during the last cycle. My wife and I were expecting our first child, and we didn't have a house, so I sold a lot of ETH, not a lot, enough ETH to like buy a house, and I was really upset. I was like, and like I just bought just enough to pay taxes and buy the home, not enough to like do anything else. Um, I was really, really upset because if you were on Twitter, everyone was like, ETH was going to 10,000. And I sold like right over 4,000. And it ended up being like the market top. So
That's so good.
I have
So
no advice there other than like,
take profit.
when you think that it's going to 20K, maybe
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 take half.
take some money off the
Yeah.
yeah. When people are like, yeah, it's definitely going to 20K. Maybe that's your signal.
Yeah.
I definitely have been anticipating a top within this calendar year in Q4. I don't think 10,000 is outside of the question, and I think 7K is a given. It's going to depend how we pace. Like if we're sitting at like all-time high ETH 900 at the end of October, maybe I adjust to be like, maybe the cycle does go into next year. Maybe this is a longer played out cycle. 2017 peaked in January, 2018, January, that 2017 cycle. Last cycle peaked effectively November, December, depending on what asset. Other cycles have peaked around that time. So I think a lot of people are like, come Thanksgiving, I'm selling, like that's going to be the peak. Like if it's like mania at that point, I would say that feels like that could be it. But if we have a more modest buildup, then I think we could go off of that. But we had a little bottom last week. It was very, I think, anticipated. It's scary how much the charts line up over the cycles. Everyone said go away in September, and you looked at the charts and it was like, okay, it's not that bad. And sure enough, we had that dip. So looking at everything now, it's like it's kind of taken off really fast. So I don't know. That's my non-explicit guess.
When your predictions are right, I'm gonna clip this.
I was at base camp and I was like, do you think ETH will be 10K by the end of this year? And I was so surprised that everyone was saying no. And I'm like, I'm never the most bullish.
Yeah.
I think 10K, not to sound like Tom Lee, but I think like things just get insane. Like, you if you bet around, you see it. Like you get like it's the Donald Trump quote. It's like you get tired of winning. Like, oh, I'm fucking 20% up today. This isn't sustainable. like it gets so crazy in the end. And it's like being down is like, all right, you know what? We're down. We're just living living modestly. We're not spending money right now. And it's like, we're going to get through. And then like, there's definitely been times in this past long dip, multi-year cycle where you like thought it was over and you're like, all right, we're back down. We're like, it felt rough,
Mhm.
but nothing is more stressful than when markets are peaking
Yeah.
because you get greedy.
Yeah, you do
You're
get
like,
greedy.
well, you get
You do
greedy.
get
You're like, this could be worth double if I don't sell. Like,
that's how you lose money.
and it's already
Uh,
worth double of what you wanted.
yeah. Set your targets and just exit at least some, you
Right.
know? At least take out
Yeah.
your principal and
Or do what you do and just
just
vibe.
vibe. Just vibe.
Just
This is
vibes.
why I quit the trenches. Because I don't
What's
know,
the
when
name of the
you
show?
state of the trenches. Because when I when I started trenching, it was very PvE. You were just winning. That's just what was happening. And then it became PvP. And I feel like that still didn't resonate with me. It took a while until I got into the right groups. And then I noticed people actually sell.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
People actually sell. And like some of the things
What's that meme like? You guys are getting paid? Like, yeah, oh,
um
I only sold for 500x. Like
yeah,
I only sold for 200x. And you're like, you guys
what?
sold?
Yeah.
Yeah, I never got involved in Solana. Um, what was I gonna? Yeah, so I'm very much like an Ethereum person through and through. So I'm in some group chats that like for the past 3 4 years just like went all Solana
Mhm.
and did the whole pump fund thing. Um, I like held a bag of degen when that ripped around like when pump fund was still like you could get paid.
Yeah.
And that was a year and a half ago already now, and that went like whoa to no. And we thought the cycle was starting then. We
Mm.
thought like last winter was going to be what I think is happening in this Q4. So I missed all of that, but having seen it, it was just ridiculous. But yeah, when you get involved and you roll your sleeves up, it's kind of fun. But
Yeah.
that's a completely different game than holding the macro assets.
Yeah.
And then you hold the macro assets and you're like, oh, I know how to use Hyperliquid. I know how to use Avantis. I know how to do a perp, and I'll just not use a lot of leverage. I'll say this. In 2017, there was this time when I don't remember what the price was at, but it was insane. ETH went up to like $300
Mhm.
and in like a month from like $90. Maybe it was more. 2017. Uh, and what happened was, I mean, you couldn't trade margin on Coinbase at the time,
Mhm.
but the price had moved so fast, like in the past few months, that people had like buy orders in on Coinbase for like $20 ETH that just were
Yeah.
never filled because the price like not that long ago was like $20
Mm.
on just Coinbase. Um, ETH tanked. Yeah, June 22nd, 2017, Ethereum price crashed from $319 to 10 cents in seconds on one exchange. Liquidated a bunch, well, not liquidated because like there's no margin trading on Coinbase at the time. But if people had sell orders, like, oh, I'm just protecting myself, I have like sell orders
Mm.
below price, people were sold out. Coinbase ended up reimbursing all that, but a bunch of people I worked with at the time had all these buy orders and that were filled because it
Oh my
bounced.
god.
It bounced immediately. It was just like it was like a 1 minute wick down and up due to like liquidity problems or something on their exchange. This is fucking Coinbase. Like at the time, it was still like a little wild back then, but um, I wonder if a moment like that happens on like a hyperliquid. Um,
Don't
because if
say
it
that.
did, imagine that. Like
Don't say that. Don't even put that into
imagine.
No, I just feel like it would just be over at that point. That's really scary.
I mean, that's the kind of stuff that happens in crypto.
Yeah.
Um,
We saw FTX.
Terra Luna,
Yep.
FTX, like FTX was like
Yeah.
bigger than Coinbase at one point. I was like, surely this is the new, bigger, better thing.
Yeah.
So like local exchange wicks are real. Whether it goes down to 10 cents or 30%, like people are getting wiped out. Um, Obviously, if you're holding spot, that's fine. Like you're unaffected.
Yeah.
If if you don't have like sell orders on or something. So I think that, it's not a unique take, but something will happen with I like digital asset treasuries,
Mhm.
the DATs, but I think the real systemic thing that we are looking at is we're actually in an AI bubble. And that I don't think we're anywhere near the top of. I think
Mhm.
that'll like continue to multiply, like in equities. And I think when that crashes, um, that'll bring down crypto assets with it. But if we're on that timeline, then we're not looking at a peak towards the end of this year. Um, so maybe it is a super cycle. I don't know. I don't know. Like I said, I'll adjust. But maybe ETH goes to 40,000 and we just ride up there through the end of 2027 and everyone gets paid for their data in MEM and they're just like, oh, wow.
Everything's just wonderful. Mm.
Yeah, everything is just beautiful. But I don't know. ETH is only still below previous all-time high. ETH has always done multiples of prior all-time highs. If we're to do multiples, then 10,000 feels like a given. And I don't know. We're going to have to adjust MEM payouts if people don't care about getting paid because they made so much money on other things.
Pay them more.
Yeah. Make it worthwhile.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I get paid for my user data. It doesn't matter.
I mean, why wouldn't anyone want to do it? It's super easy. If they're not doing it, I feel like they probably just don't know or
people don't need to. They don't
yeah.
need to. We have those 150,000 accounts. I think it, like, on the one hand, it's great for people.
Mm.
On the other hand, it's better for developers to be able to build with stuff that they can build experiences that they otherwise could not have built. That is it. I think that's the coolest part about it. And like, going back to like if I could build with Spotify data, we could build like Wrapped. This is a big one. People talk about this all the time. Why does Spotify only do Wrapped once a year? And like people hated it last year because there wasn't a lot of like attention put on it. It was like shittier than prior years.
Mm.
If someone else could take all of that data and you could just like connect your Spotify account and they could build something, you could be like, you could have 10 different wraps ongoing year round. But they're not giving out API keys for people to be able to build those. So liberate the user data. And like you don't even like if that's what you wanted, it's not about getting paid.
Right.
It's about having a better experience. So that's also what it's about. And we will pay apps that provide data or open up their data. So either do it and get paid if you're an app builder, or don't, and the users will take their information if they think it's valuable.
Right. Right. Well, I'm super excited to see what you guys build next and what's in store in the future. And I hope someone builds the app idea that I mentioned.
Yeah, someone build that app.
Please.
I like the theme of it, but like, not self-help, not astrology, but like getting to know like you said something that really resonated. It was like getting to know, like people want to know themselves better.
Mhm.
Like, I don't know what you would call it, but that's like a really interesting thread there that I think would be like really fascinating to see people build on top of. We have a bunch of information, public accounts. on people that is really hard to get in one place if you're building anything at that intersection, and you could pay users. So it's not like really a trench play.
Yeah, I'm not just about.
We're here.
We're here
Yeah.
to build. We're here to build and make.
I know you're on like your product.
My product review.
Yeah. What are we calling it? Your
product review arc.
Yeah, your product review arc.
Yeah. Which was my arc before I got into trenching. I just used to review products.
So I mean, like that's like an arc down to go into the trenches. And you're arcing out.
Yeah. Yeah. Too much dopamine in trenches.
Well, there's a lot of great products. Excited to see more stuff you cover. Thanks for having me on, talking about all the things.
Thanks for coming on. Super excited about memory, and yeah, I hope we chat again soon.
Yeah, I hope you have me on, and yeah, go check out memory if you haven't, if you're listening, and if you want to build with it, find me on Twitter.
What's your Twitter?
Jack Spallone. Jack Spallone is my handle. It's my name. If you search jack.base.eth, that's my username.
Okay.
That's my new username. Now that I'm a token guy, I gotta be on chain. So yeah, come and find us. But Linda, thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for being on, and we'll chat soon.
All right. Catch up with you soon.
Bye. Okay, guys. Still on the live stream. Make sure you check out Memory Protocol. I'm going to end the live and come back to do a review of Racks. So see you soon.